The Contest of Champions. Does that sound familiar to you? Maybe you remember hearing it from Thor Ragnarok, because that was the name of the games that the Grandmaster was holding, where Thor and Hulk were gladiators to compete, to fight to the death before him. Or maybe you've played the mobile game that over 100 million people have downloaded at this point in time. However you know it, the Contest of Champions has existed in numerous formats over the years, but it all originates from the comic books, baby. Titled Marvel Superhero Contest of Champions, this 3-part limited series from Marvel ran from June until August of 1982, and it was the very first limited series that Marvel Comics had ever published. Written by Bill Mantlo, Mark Gruenwald, and Stephen Grant, and drawn by Bob Layton and John Romita Jr. This 3-part story tells the tale of the Contest of Champions, which is a game created by the Grandmaster, one of the elders of the universe, to challenge the mysterious hooded figure that we only know as the Unknown, who holds the power of the Golden Globe of Life, in an attempt to resurrect the Grandmaster's fallen brother, the Collector. So the Grandmaster chooses Earth to pull the contestants from, because Earth has this vast number of superpowered beings. So he creates this arena out in the depths of space, and he pulls everyone with superpowers to this arena. From reading the story, it appears that the Grandmaster pulled everyone there because they had superpowers. So if they were on Earth and superpowered, they got transported magically to this arena. But there's certain people that they disqualified from competing, like the Inhumans or the Eternals, but yet those people got pulled to the arena. Well, that's because they're superpowered and they were on Earth. But there's an issue there, because they also pulled Iron Man, and I'm sure a few others that don't actually have superpowers. So when everybody gets to this arena, the Grandmaster tells them why they've been gathered to compete, where these 4 pieces of this golden globe are going to be spread across the 4 corners of the Earth. And they will compete against each other, and whichever team wins by gathering the most pieces of the globe, they will win the Contest of Champions. And some of the heroes are like, we're not going to compete in your sick games, so in order to get certain people to agree to compete, they lay down the stakes for them. And the stakes of the game are that if they do not play, every living being on the planet is currently in a state of suspended animation. And if they refuse to play, they will not release them, and everyone will just be frozen in time forever. So those are the stakes to get them to play. To motivate them to win, the Grandmaster says that he will never again use the people of Earth as his pawns in any games in the future. While the Unknown's motivation for their team to win is that they will extend the life of Earth's sun an extra 1,000,000 years. So Earth will survive far longer than it was going to. So now that the rules are set, the Grandmaster and the Unknown have to select their players. Now, the Contest of Champions, right on the cover, says featuring every single superhero on Earth in the greatest battle of all. So the cover of the comic, and halfway through the book, you're thinking, holy crap, these superheroes are going to be fighting each other. This is going to be epic. This is going to be awesome. But then they select their teams. The Grandmaster's team consists of Captain America, Talisman, Darkstar, Captain Britain, Wolverine, Defensor, Sasquatch, Daredevil, Peregrine, I think is how you pronounce it. I don't speak French, so I don't know. She-Hulk, The Thing, and Blitzkrieg. While the unknown picks Iron Man, who has no powers, so he shouldn't even be qualified. He shouldn't even be there. Vanguard, Iron Fist, Shamrock, Storm, Arabian Knight, Sabra, Invisible Girl, Angel, Black Panther, Sunfire, and the Collective Man. Now, if some of those superheroes sound very unfamiliar to you, it's because 6 of the 24, were created specifically for this book. So you've literally pulled all of these characters that everyone loves and adores into this arena to be picked to fight with, but you create 6 crappy characters that no one knows and you don't give them a chance to care about. And it's just, when you're reading it and you get to that point and you see who the teams are, you're just like, this is it. This is not what I expected at all. And you really kind of get disappointed by the end of the first issue. And so I would love to know what the sales were for this book. I'm sure that they were still popular because, like I said, it's the first limited series that Marvel had ever done at that point. But I gotta think that, if a book like this came out today and those were the teams that were picked, I feel like there's going to be a huge drop off from the sales of issue 1 to issue 2. So, and they don't even actually wind up fighting each other. They get put in teams of 3. And so it's a 3-on-3 quest to find this piece of the Golden Globe of Life. And once one of them reaches it and grabs a hold of it, then that contest is over and that person's announced the winner and the point goes to their team. And so there's no real prize for being the person that wins it. I guess it's just like maybe an honorary thing. But so through this whole contest of these champions, and that word is used very loosely with a lot of these people, it's like it had so much potential. It could have been so much better than what it was, because you've left people like the Hulk and Spider-Man and Thor and Reed Richards. You've left all of these people that have awesome abilities and that have these huge fan bases, and you instead created these new people. It really boggles the mind as to why they chose to do this. So after the contest is over and the Grandmaster is appointed the winner because his team collected the most pieces, we learn that the unknown is actually Death. And so she does grant the Grandmaster the ability to resurrect his brother, the Collector, by using the Golden Globe of Life. However, in order to do that, it has to be a life for a life. So he would have to sacrifice his own life in order to bring his brother, the Collector, back. And he does wind up doing that. And so then the Collector comes back, the Grandmaster is killed in his place, and Death takes the Collector off, and he talks about challenging her again, possibly to another game. And that's kind of it. And so, going from, the very cover of issue 1, where you think you're going to see these really awesome fights between your favorite superheroes, you kind of just see some of your favorite superheroes in action, and it's kind of story-wise, it's kind of a big disappointment. It's kind of a big letdown. However, I mean, I do think that it was a success because, I mean, I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, you know, it's still being talked about today. Contest of Champions is still being used in some form or another. So the idea of the Contest of Champions is still around and still being utilized, and is probably much better now than it was when first conceived. Another thing that I think made it successful is because if this wasn't successful, then I don't think that we would see all of the limited series that came from Marvel like we did. Because after this, they did limited series like crazy. And so I think that the Contest of Champions holds a special place in comic book history as not necessarily being a great story, but being a really good idea that's been able to be used time and time again, and introducing a new format for Marvel Comics to produce even more stories and produce even more events. And honestly, it may be the first event book, because really it kind of is a crossover event, because you've got all the characters of the Marvel Universe crossing over in this one storyline. So I imagine in 1982, this was a huge freaking deal. But when you look back on it, it's nowhere near held in as high as a regard as like the Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars, which is highly praised, rightfully so. But everyone has heard of the Contest of Champions, and they could probably tell you what the Contest of Champions is, but I would gather that a lot of people would not be able to tell you what the actual story of Contest of Champions is. And that to me is interesting. So if you liked this video, I hope that you will give me a thumbs up. Let me know that. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Have you read this? What do you think of this story? What do you think of these characters that wound up being in the contest? Have you played the mobile game? Is it cool? Should I check it out? Whatever you want to tell me, you tell me and you let me know. But I thank you for watching. As always, be excellent to each other and take it easy.